oh, how dangerous is Peter Thiel?
How
And I
dangerous.
just kind of like, yeah, and I kind of like that, like question that's being posited, and it might be like a super lefty article. I haven't read it. We'll kind of like do we'll get like a live, fresh experience there.
Yeah, like a live reaction.
And I also, yeah, and I also haven't read any of Yee's stuff. I've seen a few of the tweets that people have like messaged out, but I really haven't dived deep into that. And also kind of like on purpose, I was like, oh well, we can get like a fresh reaction out of me as like we go through this, you know.
Yeah, his tweets are insane. I think he deleted some of them.
I've seen a few. I've heard that, and then someone today said he's been posting porn, and
Oh
it's like,
yeah,
dude,
well,
that's I've ever heard. Like,
yeah.
you are being so manipulated right now.
There's some crazy stuff. He's he basically admitted he was trolling. He's like, Elon's so cool for like letting me do this. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and then, and like he made so much money off of probably like if he's, I'm sure he's monetized. You know, and people come in there and fucking interacting with those tweets and shit. I'm sure he made a lot of cash off that. Like his fucking X check this month is going to be fat.
oh
Like
yeah. He's been getting
it's going to be
like,
fat.
I mean, so many 16 million views on his last tweet.
Oh geez, yeah. So like, and you know, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about him, but maybe we should, you know, because he's kind of an interesting character too. That like
Yeah,
through time, right? Like, who the fuck is Kanye really at the end of the day? Like, I particularly don't even find his music that great.
I love his music.
Like,
His old stuff is really good.
he was better. He was better when he was a producer, I think, in my opinion, more than a hip hop artist.
Yeah, I like up to like
But
2013 ish. Like his last
through
album,
the, yeah, that's
2013 was
probably
good, and then everything else after that,
that's probably about.
I'm out on him with that. But
I haven't listened to anything probably about since like 10 or 11, or you know, maybe 12 or 13 or something. So yeah, about the same. I like, you know, Through the Wire was incredible. That was
yeah,
like, damn, dude.
not really.
Yeah, right. And like, it's even better because some of the things that he says that people are just like, oh, he's trolling. He's like, well, he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not really
Like,
wrong, but he's also like crazy. Just and
yeah,
everything's
he's
in all
definitely,
caps too, which makes it even worse. It's like, come on, man, you could just write normally.
yeah, but he's definitely like, I think that just lends even more to like the spectacleness of this situation, right? Well, actually, we should, since we're talking like this, we should probably just start it off.
Yeah,
And
it's already recording. I'm pretty sure.
in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, in the name of Lord Jesus of Nazareth, by the power of his cross, his blood, his resurrection, I take authority over all curses, hexes, spells, voodoo practices, witchcraft assignment, satanic rituals, incantations, and evil wishes that have been sent my way. And I have passed down the generational bloodline. I break their influence over my life by the power of the risen Lord Jesus Christ, and I command these curses to go back where they came from and be replaced with a blessing. I ask for I ask forgiveness for and renounce all negative vows and agreements that I have made with the enemy, and I ask you, Lord Jesus, to release me from my bondage they have held in me. I claim your shed blood over all aspects of life, relationships, ministry, endeavors, and finances, and I thank you for your enduring love, your angelic protection, and the fullness of your abundant blessings. In nomine Patri, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. So, Jacqueline, of course, you know, she's not here. She was visiting family, and or Jake Quellen, you know, she was visiting family, and she did want to make it, but I kind of told her like, look, just like go do your family thing. Like, we'll record more podcasts. Like, you don't get to spend that much time. And sure, it's only an hour, but go do your thing. So she will return next week. She will be back with us next week. Everybody who, you know, like is waiting, and because of that, we're gonna kind of like, you know, we were kind of doing our introductory episode last time. And sorry, you will not get to meet Not Zero's most eligible bachelor this week. You'll have to get my introduction next week.
Oh boy.
um, I am so kidding. Um, uh, but but this week we're going to kind of have we have some cool things to discuss. We were going to go through, somewhat jokingly, but also somewhat seriously, a gentleman named Peter Thiel. He is a pretty serious character in the world, and not enough people know him. And that makes me feel like we should all know him a little more.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that you mention to someone, you're like, "Do you know Peter Thiel?" And you could see that it hits them, like, they're like,
He's like familiar, but not really. Yeah.
yeah, it strikes that name, and you're like, "Gosh, I really feel like I should know this,"
Yeah.
and then of course we're going to cover the train wreck that is Yi, as he eats himself out of existence.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
So, how do you want to start it off?
I mean, we gotta start with Peter Thiel. Are you Thieling me?
Are you feeling me? Are you feeling me right now?
Yeah.
So, why don't you? Do you want to go ahead and maybe read the Wikipedia or some of the data that you have pulled up, and we'll kind of go from there, and then maybe we'll talk about Peter Thiel, our own personal ideas,
Okay,
and then
yeah.
I've got an article we can read.
Let's see. Let me get
Okay. Also, while he pulls that up, this is an amazing hoodie. It says "Doing Witchcraft" on it. It's really sick. My buddy, Mr. Dr. Kalishnikov, which is a great name, playing on the Mr. Doctor Strange. Mr. Dr. Kalishnikov has them on his Twitter page. Well, you can go to his Etsy. It's at spiteful_design. Is his X account. I figured just plug him. And I would like to plug at BX_on X, BX_on_X. And if you're just to fill some gap time there, oh, cool, great. Let's, you want to pull that up and here we go.
All right. So this is the. Oh wait. That's the quote page. Here's the Wikipedia. Yeah. So.
It might not load for me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, great.
The audience can see it, so that's fine.
Perfect. That's what matters. I don't really need to.
Yeah. So Peter
take us on a little bit of a walk.
All right. He's an American entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and political activist. He is the co-founder of PayPal, which is very important. We'll get more on that later. Plantar Technologies and the Founders Fund. He was also the first outside investor of Facebook. He's a billionaire. He's worth, I think, what was it, like 15 billion or so.
It was like 15.4 billion.
Yeah, like 15 billion. He has a lot of
which is another thing we should come back to.
Mm-hmm. And then he's this is the great part about Peter Thiel. Thiel is a conservative libertarian who has made substantial donations to American right-wing figures and causes. He was controversially granted New Zealand citizenship in 2011 after the fifth national government intervened on his behalf. So yeah, he's had that done. He's done that. He's big into AI, of course. And another interesting fact about Peter Thiel, he was born in Germany, but he grew up in South Africa a little bit, along with some other famous person that grew up in South Africa as well.
Another prominent name people might know.
Perhaps his buddy or his puppet master or his puppet. You know what I mean?
Perhaps.
The
toy at the end of his string.
Yeah. And then we have, and then he. All right, yeah, we'll skip to PayPal. So he was a CEO. He basically founded it, and then I think he sold it.
He and Elon sold it to eBay, I believe.
Yeah. He sold it. He got like a lot. It was public in February 2002, bought by eBay for $1.5 billion. He remained CEO of the company until the sale. His 3.7% stake in the company was worth $55 million at the time of acquisition. So, yep.
That seems like a really small amount to me for PayPal, if I'm going to be honest with you. Because I think that Venmo is an offshoot of PayPal, right? And that's like a pretty big industry to only make 55 million. I mean, sure, 55 million is a big amount of money, but for the first successful digital money transfer system, you think you would get more than 55
Yeah, but
million out
he
of
was
that,
only
right? Like
he was like the CEO, so they were probably paying him like millions of dollars anyway. That was probably just like his
that's
stock
probably
option.
true.
Yeah.
He's like, I get $55 million a year anyway. Just give me a year's salary.
Yeah, basically. It's
Just
like his
kidding.
stock option. They're like, here, I mean, 3.7% isn't that big of a percentage that he had in the company, so.
No, it's really actually rather small.
Yeah, it's a minority stake, really.
Which is kind of interesting too for someone to be a co-founder, but you're a co-founder and you only have 3.7% is kind of like
yeah, kind
small.
of
It seems.
kind of fishy.
Math ain't math in there. I'm only part juice. Accounting isn't like my greatest skill, but math ain't mathin'.
Yeah, I mean, you would know, I guess. And then we'll skip to, he has another investment, Clarum Capital, but it's like a hedge fund.
I think he's got like 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah. He made
Go ahead.
like, I'm trying to read where did he make? Well, the
$7 billion.
Clarum Capital made $7 billion in the first quarter by 2008, but fell later in the year. And then the markets collapsed. And then many key investors pulled out, reducing Clarum's value to $350 million, which 2/3 of which was Thiel's money. So he actually lost money on that one.
Huh.
I mean, who didn't lose money in 2008? Well, I didn't because I wouldn't have any money. So.
Yeah, right. The Federal Reserve did not lose money in 2008.
Oh no, they never do. Never. And then, of course, the most interesting investment, Palantir. People probably have heard of this. I'm guessing. Yeah. But you know where this is from, right? You're familiar with this, the reference that it's making.
I am, but you should tell them anyway.
Company was named after a token artifact. So yeah,
that's
all it says on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, why don't you tell the audience which artifact?
The token artifact. I don't remember which one is it.
It's the one where
crystal balls from J.R. Tolkien's fantasy novel Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Yep, crystal balls that enable sight across great distances and spying. And Palantir is a data analytics company that has often been accused with working closely with Big Brother and CIA in terms of surveillance. So quite an interesting name to pick Palantir as that.
Yeah.
We'll get it. We can touch into that more too. Our theories. I've got like a running list of, we could go through like the facts, and then we could come back and kind of go through our fun little spin-offs if you want. And if you want to keep taking it away, I'm down.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Palantir is a big data analysis company. So basically, they just like aggregate data, I guess. I don't know how they get they do data mining. That's how they get it. And they work with a lot of government
And who knows what that means?
Yeah. Well, their first backer was the CIA's venture capital arm, the In-Q-Tel. So, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Nothing to see here, folks.
Yep, nothing to see here. Just a little data company.
Bought by the CIA or funded by the CIA, huh?
Yeah.
Gee.
Company grew steadily, and in 2015 it was worth $20 billion. So, you know. And then Facebook. I mean, do we really care what he did with Facebook?
Yeah, and
he
was.
Stake in it, but.
Did you say he was the first prominent investor in Facebook? Is that kind of what you had read earlier, I think, or something?
Yeah. I think it did mention that briefly. Where is
it? I think it said something about him being the first prominent or most prominent or...
Yeah, he was one of like the first investors, I think. I said it somewhere. I don't know where it is now.
That's what I thought.
But his role on Facebook wasn't like that big. He kind of just was an investor. He wasn't like he didn't exert any like influence over how Facebook operated or anything. And he was on the board for a while, but I think he's off it now. It's like
I want to say that there was something that he's not.
Yeah. And then he had another fund where he invested a lot of money. They bought $15 to $20 million worth of Bitcoin in the Founders Fund. Oh, that's interesting.
For what? For which? That is really interesting.
Founders Fund. It's a venture capital.
Is the name of that? I want to write this down.
Yeah. It's a venture capital fund from San Francisco. Sean Parker.
And you said they bought
50. Luke Music. I don't know. He's from.
That's a weird name.
One of them's from PayPal. Luke Music is.
Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see. Don't look this direction. There's no man behind the curtain. It's all just smoke and mirrors.
It really is. And then there's a bunch of like other small venture capital things he's done. Political views. Here we go.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm just gonna mute and turn off my video real quick. I have to do something, but I'm here. Why don't you just read through it?
Yep. All right. Thiel is a self-described conservative libertarian. Since the late 2010s, he has espoused support for national conservatism and criticized economically liberal attitudes towards free trade and big tech. This is pretty important. In 1995, Thiel and David O. Sachs, what a name, published The Diversity of Myth, a book that criticized political correctness and multiculturalism in higher education. We're going to get more into that book because his quote page is literally just from that book, I think. The following year, writing for Stanford Magazine, they argued against affirmative action in the United States, saying that it had hurt, not helped, the disadvantaged, and had increased segregation at Stanford University in the name of diversity. Thiel also wrote The Straussian Movement, an essay written by him in 2004. Sometimes considered to be a fundamental text in his political thinking, and was the subject of a 2019 interview at the Hoover Institution. The essay draws several thinkers and political theorists argues that September 11 attacks upset the entire political and military framework of the 19th and 20th centuries, and therefore a re-examination of the foundation of modern politics was needed. Honestly, he's not wrong about that either. It's a pretty interesting take on that.
It's a very interesting point about him that that's quite interesting. Sorry, I was kind of trying to take notes here and stuff. That's a very interesting point about him, because that is, he does kind of like sprinkle enough truth in his movements and stuff to allow him these things. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I was just kind of ruminating on that. I was like, he's kind of right though. Thiel explained in a 2009 essay that he had come to no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. All right, he is correct about that, I will say. Due in large part to welfare beneficiaries and women in general being notoriously tough for libertarians constituencies, he had focused efforts on new technologies, namely cyberspace, space colonization, and seasteading, that could create a new space for freedom beyond current politics. Whoa, that's wow. Oh my god. That is something.
Yeah, that's quite a thing.
Yeah,
were you not familiar that he kind of front runner?
I didn't know he was really women.
He's a big front runner in that movement.
I didn't realize he was part of the Andrew Tate cult of hating women. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I did know that he was seasteading though. I didn't know he was I didn't know he was part of the Tatrix.
Yeah.
Or a tater tot, I should say.
Yeah.
That's what I call them.
Oh
but you spell tots THOTS, so they're Tater thoughts,
Oh yeah. Yeah, or the manosphere. I didn't know he was part of the manosphere, honestly. I really had no idea. Oh no.
No, I'm not. Why don't you take like 10, 15 seconds, and I'm familiar with what the manosphere is through deductive reasoning, but if you would like to kind of just say what is the manosphere?
Oh, it's basically an online like cult of influencers that like basically espouse, you know, views about women and how you should treat women, but it's like really toxic to women kind of thing. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Could we consider Pearl part of the manosphere?
Kinda, yeah. She is, yeah. I think that Pearl and Tate should get married. Like they're like the perfect couple because they believe exactly the same
Dude,
thing.
except for he only likes 14-year-old virgins from Romania, so she's like way out of that league.
Yeah, but you know.
Have you seen that Have you seen that footage where he's like talking to camera? And he's like, "Yeah, you know, who doesn't want a 14-year-old virgin?" And he stops and he's like, You can see he like looks. He's like 6'15". I don't know what the age of consent is. Like, and you're like, dude, you're on live television, like, just being like, I don't know what the age of consent is. Like, oh, you like what, dude? 14, 6, 5, 6, 8, tow truck.
Yeah, it's manosphere is pretty toxic in my opinion. It's like the worst kind of advice too for people for like young men that don't know like, you know, how to be around
it's
women,
so bad.
how to treat women. Like it's just the worst.
It's so bad. It's like the dating advice is terrible. It demeans women. It demeans men. It's not true advice. You're not actually going to go out there and get laid by it. You know, he's misleading you with like sprinkling enough truth in there to like catch your eye. You know, he's telling men to do all the wrong things, have all the wrong perspectives about women. You know, like he demeans women to the level of just being a slut. You know, like, oh, every woman is just a slut all the time, and kind of like wants men to think that every second she's not away from you, she's blowing all 55 of her coworkers. You know, like,
yeah, and everything don't forget everything is gay as well. Everything is gay.
Oh yeah,
literally everything.
Right,
everything.
Loving a woman is gay.
Yeah, it's all gay. I'm so gay then.
I've been stealing that. I'm in love with a woman, and I say all the time, I'm like, I'm so gay for you. She's like, shut up, dude.
Yeah. It's like super gay, you know. Sorry.
I'm only gay for you, babe. And she's like, shut the up.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue down the list.
Yeah, okay. And the next part's interesting too. So he said, what did I leave off? Oh yeah. The said essay has been referenced by Curtis Yarvin. I don't know if you've read any of his stuff. He's wild. And Nick Land, the main theorist of the neo-reactionary movement in the writings.
Just keep going.
Yeah, okay. In 2015, in a 2015 conversation with Tyler Cohen, Thiel claimed that innovative breakthroughs were happening in computing /IT and not the physical world. He lamented the lack of progress in space travel, high-speed transit, and medical devices. As a cause for the discrepancy, he said, I would say that we live in a world in which bits were unregulated and atoms were regulated. Huh. In 2019, Thiel called Google seemingly treasonous and urged a government investigation citing Google's work with China and asking whether DeepMind or Google senior management had been infiltrated by foreign intelligence agencies. Oh, man.
I mean, see, that's the thing is, like, he's probably not wrong, but, like, isn't he just doing the same thing on the other side? You know, he's probably not wrong at all. Like, Google probably is treasonous and definitely influenced by outside sources, like...
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, but, like, just the whole... It's so funny, though, because, like, that was in 2019. Imagine him saying that now with, like, DeepSeek AI and stuff and all that crap going on, like...
Yeah.
And the funny part is Google isn't even allowed in China, so why would they be influenced by China? I don't understand. I don't understand how that works, really.
Yeah. Well, maybe China just wants to gather data on everybody else.
Well, they do.
You know, when I was in... Well, no, I mean, like, if they funded Google, you know, like, they would have more direct access to the data of the world. Maybe. I'm just postulating. But I can't remember which class. I think it actually might have even been like my earlier classes for like front stack front end development for like Java and HTML, CSS. It might have been in there, or I can't remember quite where. But anyway, it was talking about how the best way it might have been my AI classes actually. The best way to develop a like a psychological profile of someone is to see what questions they ask, and that like there's some obscene number of new questions asked on Google every day that would surprise you. It's actually like a percentage number of new questions asked daily, and that's some of the best ways for them to get their a profile of your mind is the questions that you ask. So just for fun, since we kind of went on the Google thing there.
Oh yeah, that is interesting actually, because it would be like kind of how your mind works, what questions you ask, and kind of tells you more about how you think than like. I mean, you could also do how you answer questions too, but I guess it's harder to get from just like random keystrokes.
Right. Someone could be very terse and very coordinated or like well formed in answering a question, but in asking a question, like they would have to have the wherewithal to think about how to ask a question wrongly in order to throw someone off. It would require a lot more thought to ask a question in a misleading way, so to speak. Because like I actually asking questions has gotten me in the most trouble in my life with people because I'll ask them something that offends them, and which is so funny, like that questions can offend people. Like, are you gay? No. Like, but you could go up to the wrong person and be like, are you gay? Are you gay? And they'd be like, why did you ask me that? And it's like, it's just a question.
Yeah, or like, are you a man or are you a woman? Like that will offend people like crazy now. It's wild. It's like, come on, I'm just asking. Like, what?
Yeah.
You're mad that I'm asking, but I'm not.
People, Yeah. Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, people used to have to carry around little translator books. You remember, like when they would go places like Italy and stuff, they used to have a little like thing, and they flip through, and they'd be like, "Oh, this is," like nowadays they're gonna have to. Well, thank goodness for Trump, but nowadays you're gonna like need a little book like that for all the genders. You have to like flip through like a kind of like a bird watching book. You'd be like, "Oh wait, that one with the purple hair. Oh, that's the." That's the dude buggy. Yeah, exactly. You have like gender watching, dude.
Bird watching for like. Oh my god.
For insanity, basically.
It's so dystopian.
You've got like the blue-haired manatee. You've got like the angry bull dyke, the red-haired bull dyke. You've got like the.
That's so bad.
Yep. And also great. It should be a joke.
Yeah, well.
Please continue.
Alright. Ooh, this is interesting. You're gonna like this. Thiel is a member of the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, a private annual gathering of intellectual figures, political leaders, and business executives. Hey, aren't you part of that group, Miss?
Oh yeah, I wish I was a Bilderberger. No, I don't wish I was a Bilderberger actually. Yeah, but who surprisingly was also a member of the Bilderberg Group was Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, true. We did go over this, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of an interesting thing to think about. And in my opinion, I don't think that he was. I mean, obviously, I want to humanize him because he made me laugh and feel so many things. Like he was one of the best actors and comedian. I don't know about comedians. He had a great perspective. He was funny, but like of course I want to like have affinity for him, but I just don't quite feel like he was eating babies with the rest of the Bilderberg Group, and maybe that's why they killed him, or
yeah, maybe he
whatever happened with him.
Maybe he wasn't like so gung ho about it as everybody else was. You never know. Yeah,
and they could kind of like maybe tell, they could tell like it was getting to him, and the pressures were too much, and then it's like, well, we can't have that.
I think so.
Which does lead to, which I'm going to apologize in advance, but this is one of my favorite jokes ever, and it's a terrible, terrible joke.
Here we
But
go.
all these new comedians are pretty funny, but Robin Williams can still hang.
Oh, that's terrible. No one laugh at that. You're not allowed to laugh. That's not funny.
Let's I don't mean to steal all your time away. Let's
all right, one more
let's
thing.
learn some more about this maniacal.
One more interesting thing about Thiel. Okay, Thiel, who is gay, all right, has supported many conservative gay rights causes such as the American Foundation for Equal Rights and GOP Proud. And then he's a.
I didn't know he was gay.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I just looked at it. I saw that. I was like, huh, that's interesting.
Which is kind of interesting because we did a lot of research on him the other day, and that was not mentioned once. Not that it matters necessarily what someone's sexual orientation is. I believe that everyone has the equal right to be made fun of. You know, if you want to make fun of me for being hetero, do so. But like, I didn't know that he was gay. That's interesting.
I mean, cool. Like, yeah, he's also a member of the Republican Party. He contributes to both Republican and libertarian causes. In 2007, he endorsed Ron Paul for president. So, all right. He also contributed to the John McCain campaign. Oh, I voted for him. Yikes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We didn't scroll down this far. That's why we didn't see he was gay before, because I never scrolled down that far. I kind of just.
I don't think I had either. Are we still on the look?
What happened?
So let's kind of go over some of the things about this page that we thought was kind of funny. One of it's the easiest one to pick at, but I just love how he's a Republican, conservative, libertarian that owns a CIA-funded big data analytics company that donates to or endorses Ron Paul and is funded by the CIA and a Bilderberger. Like, what? That's quite. Even just that sentence that I said there is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lot of things, definitely. I think the most interesting thing is that he says he's libertarian, but his actions really don't like kind of tell you that he's libertarian, like, in a way. I don't know. It's not like screaming libertarian to me. And then when we get to his quotes, it's gonna be even worse, actually.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and that was something that I actually forgot to bring up in that long list of things that I just said. He's a conservative Republican libertarian that owns a CIA-funded data company that also is a monarchist. Or monopolist. Sorry, not monarchist.
Yeah,
monopolist.
maybe we should switch to the quotes now. This is a good segue.
Let's fly into the quotes.
Let's see. So I think the quotes are mostly, as we found out, just copied from his book. Or his multiple books.
It did seem like someone just took the book and was like, stop at every tangible phrase or paragraph and copy, because it goes on for like 25 pages, doesn't it? Or you can just like scroll for quite a while, right?
It's 41 pages.
And we went down quite a ways, 20 pages or so, and eventually it was just like he went to the kitchen. It was like one of the quotes out of the book or something like.
Yeah, there's like 20,
he made dinner,
there's like 20
and
quotes in Spanish.
Yeah.
Like the same quotes that he has here are in Spanish at the end, so it's like, really?
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and read some of them for us here? Some of these wonderful masterpieces of Peter Thiel's mind.
Yeah. Okay. First one up. Monopoly is a condition of every successful business. Uh-huh. Oh, and okay. We wanted flying cars.
Just
Instead,
right off
we
the bat.
got 140
Just
characters. Wait, is that a slay at Elon Musk? That might be a slay at Elon right there.
Well, actually, he probably said that before Elon owned Twitter.
Yeah, maybe. Could be. I mean, it doesn't say the date it was said, so I can't know, but...
No, but it does say where it's from, right? I think that's from his book, Ground Zero.
Is this one? It doesn't say it this one, but it might be.
Anyway, keep going.
All field companies are the same. They fail to escape competition. Madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and ages, it is the rule. That's kind of a banger, actually.
Say that again?
Madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and ages, it is the rule.
Huh. Yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah, that's a good one. I kind of like that quote.
And that's how he gets you. He just teals your heart.
Yeah. And by the way, when we say Thiel, we mean like reverse psychology kind of thing. That's what Thiel is.
We'll get to that with my article that I read.
Yeah. But I'm just saying for the audience, if they don't understand the joke, it's just like
for sure
the reverse psychology, like like telling someone that they can't do it, but actually they can, or vice versa.
You know, it was pretty funny when I posted that tweet that said, "Do not like this tweet." How many people did not do what I said and were very proud of it, you know, and like, and that was cool. Like, it was great, you know, like, and some of the people came and just commented, and they're like, "You won't get me with the reverse psychology." I was like, actually, I really did not want you to like this tweet. Like, I was hoping you wouldn't. So you guys are the ones who win. You know?
Yeah. And people will always do stuff when you tell them not to do it. Like, you say, don't do this, and they'll be like, all right, well, I want to do that now. It's kind of I don't know why people don't realize that's how laws don't really work, because you say, oh, you can't do this. People are like, well, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. Like,
yeah, or why not? Why can't I?
Yeah. People start questioning it, like, why are you saying I can't do it when I actually can?
Like, I can see that I can walk across this field, and you're telling me that it's not allowed, but I can do this. It's it's faster.
Yep. All right. Next quote.
Keep going through some of his quotes.
Creative monopoly means new products that benefit everybody and sustainable profits for the creator. Competition means no profits for anybody, no meaningful differentiation, and a struggle for survival.
Oh, I'm glad that we brought up competition, because like that is a perfect quote to kind of like glorify, in terms of like, this man calls himself a libertarian. He calls himself a big libertarian. He touts his libertarianism. And here he is saying, here he is, and if you'll read it one more time for everybody, this is a libertarian saying this quote.
He's a big libertarian, all right. Creative monopoly means new products that benefit everybody and sustainable profits for the creator. Competition means no profits for anybody, no meaningful differentiation, and a struggle for survival. Peter Thiel, a libertarian.
The libertarian.
Yeah.
No, and I love even how in the monopoly he specifies, like, he's like, for the creator. Profits for the creator, not profits for the organization, profits for the creator. And competition means no profits for anybody. Like,
he's like, yeah, I'm just talking about myself.
Yeah, it's like, actually, like, you know, a competitive market is important, right? Because like in monopolies, the like two biggest problems with monopoly, of course, I think, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head, is that they do not have to provide you the quality of goods as equivalent to the price, right? Like, they can give you a cheaper product for a higher price, and sometimes they can leverage you into having to buy that because they are a monopoly in that instance. So you have to buy from them, and they're not even delivering on a quality of product. If I'm maybe encapsulating that well.
Yeah. It's like when you go to the airport and you can't bring in any outside food because they want you to buy airport food. That's the same thing. It's basically the same thing, and it's not even that
Right.
good. It's never airport food's never good. Like, you never had a good sandwich in
Right.
an airport before because you can't, like, it just doesn't, because you only have a few choices and they're all bad, and there's no
When
way you can get
McDonald's
around
is the
it.
best choice, when McDonald's is your best choice and they're charging $10 for hot and spicy, you know you're in a monopoly.
Yeah, that's like the best. That's the best monopoly I can think of right now. But I mean, I guess there used to be a lot more monopolies back
I've
in the
got a
day.
Well, see, the thing is that they shattered them in appearance only, right? Like it was
Yeah,
like they turned them. They were like, you can't have it all designated under one banner. I have a great example of monopoly. I live up in the mountains of Colorado, and in order to get online, I have to go through an ISP, an internet service provider. There are quote unquote more ISPs in the area now, but for many years there was only like one or two. And South Park makes fun of this in one of their episodes, and it's so great because it's true. Where the guy has the little flaps that he pops down on his T-shirt, and when people call in, he's like, "Oh no, I can't fix. Oh, you want to go somewhere else? Like, you can't. Haha, you have to buy internet here. You have to pay whatever price we want, and you get shitty internet because we're the only ones." And it is changing now. Elon definitely changed the game for sure by providing a bunch of people up here with Starlink, which really did hurt the telecom infrastructure up here. Originally, they're having to adapt because they had a monopoly, and now there is competition via Elon being able to provide a service, and they are having to lower prices and upgrade their services. So
yeah, that's a good
that's
example. All right, let's see what other quotes we can do. Next page. Nope, go away. Oh, here's a good quote. The road doesn't have to be infinite after all. Take the hidden paths.
take the CIA funded path. I mean, hidden path.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to find the good. Where's all the good ones? There's some.
I don't know. This seems like a different page than what we were kind of on the other day, because like the other one had many right off the bat that were like pretty shocking.
Oh yeah, here's a good one. Here's some good ones. Okay. Darwinism may be a fine theory in other contexts, but in startups, intelligent design works best.
What does he mean there?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I have no idea. I mean, he clearly
It's kind
doesn't
of brilliant.
agree with Darwinism at all, because he's like, yeah, no survival of the fit. It's just monopolies for me.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of we don't need to go into Darwinism. We could do a whole episode on that. I would love to actually do that at some point in time.
Interesting.
That's a can of worms. But and like the thing about Peter Thiel, right, is like he is not stupid. Like so often I think that we underestimate people like him. Like it's so easy for us to just write off, either politicians or these people as stupid. And like one of my favorite quotes is from the TV show Daredevil, and it's when the big bad guy admits that he can speak Japanese or Chinese, and the woman's like, "Yeah, I know," and he's like, "How did you know?" And she's like, "Well, a clever man plays a fool, and a foolish woman believes him." And I think that really, like, not to sound panicky or whatever, but we should overestimate these people, I think, more often in existence. Like it's so easy for people to just write off and be like, "Oh well, like, oh, PayPal didn't make that much money, it doesn't mean that he's doing anything." It's like I think that we often miss the gravity of the situation because we label our ideological adversaries as stupid rather than viewing them as competent and putting up an act.
Yeah, I agree. We can't underestimate. You can't underestimate anybody, really. You never know, like, what they're capable of. And this guy clearly knows how to, like, make money any way he can. I mean, 15 billion.
And so I'm glad you bring up that point too, because also it didn't really mention it in your article, but in the article that I bring up, and maybe some of the other ones we read the other day, I can't quite remember what, but it talks about how this man, Peter Thiel, like he was like an underwriter for the U.S. Secretary Treasury or something. He potentially, so he was in South Africa in the 1970s, around the same time that Elon was in South Africa in the 1970s, and they're best buddies. He is Mark Zuckerberg's mentor. He talks about that. Zuckerberg talks about it. JD Vance really talks about looking up to this man. He and Trump have some sort of ties that we didn't quite tie into quite yet. But I would really like to focus on the fact that this man says he's worth $15.4 billion, which is a lot of money. That's a shit ton of cash. But considering the fact that he's been this like silent behind the scenes player for at least 30 years, and he has these great offsprings, these very wealthy people that are under him. Like, I don't know what Zuckerberg is worth, but he's worth probably more than $15 billion. And Elon Musk is worth more than 15.
Yeah. Zuckerberg and Elon are like 200, 300, 400 billion each.
Well, Elon's like 400 billion, and I was gonna guess like that Zuckerberg was around like I want to say like 220 or something.
Yeah,
like
it's like $230
billion dollars.
Yeah, it's 230 or something.
But it just kind of provides, which is amazing, right? Like, great, you should go to that man as a mentor. But to me, as an observer and an inquisitor, I wonder, I'm like, how is it that he is only worth $15 billion if he's giving all of these strategies to these people and making, like if let's just pretend that Zuckerberg made $200 million, like 15 into 200 million is like, it's like 15 times more than you're worth, or more than that, like it's even more than 15 times. But it's like, it makes me question, like, he's got to be hiding something in order to only quote unquote be worth $15.4 billion. Like, it feels shady. That feels like a shady admittance. And it also feels like one of those things like, oh, I'm only worth $15.4 billion. Don't suspect me. Like,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's kind of like he feels like he's hiding some money offshore or something. That's what we were saying in space, I believe. We were like, he must be hiding some money there. Yeah.
And I did find it interesting that you mentioned that one of his startups, because he's got several, right? And I think several of them are like hedge fundy kind of. Several of them are like hedge fundy things, but you brought up the name of one called Founders Fund, and you said that they had invested 15 million into Bitcoin. And I think that a lot of Bitcoin enthusiasts would be like, oh, yay, cool, more things. And it's like, we don't really, like, institutional adoption of Bitcoin kills retail Bitcoin. Like, it just slaughters the dream that was theoretically Bitcoin. Like when Michael Saylor owns, like, who knows how many Bitcoin, 100, like probably more than 100 now, like when, like BlackRock and Vanguard and Peter Thiel is dropping 15 million, like, dude, the Bitcoiners can't compete with that kind of cash. Like, Peter Thiel can shit $15 million a day. And like, and like the big Bitcoiners that made a bunch of money in the beginning, sure, they made hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Or whatever, that had, oh, look, I had 1,000 Bitcoin in 2013 and I held till 2020 or whatever. Like, sure, they made a shit ton of money, but they don't have the ability to like literally shit $15 million a day. Like, I don't think people quite understand the gravity of even how much $15 billion is. Like, like it sounds like a small number, but like $15 billion is like 1,500 millions, like, right, or more. No, yeah. And
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
a
like,
lot. It's unimaginable amount of money. You can't hard to imagine it in like space.
yeah, he could buy like a Lamborghini a day and never run out of money in his lifetime
Yeah,
off of just
exactly.
15 billion.
Yeah, he's never gonna run out of money.
Like,
Period. Like you can't spend that ever. It'd be very hard to spend all of it.
yeah, what do you even buy, like, other than like nations and corporations and bribes and
Neighborhoods.
like busfuls of children. I mean, what, like,
Yeah.
oh, gonna get assassinated here. Just kidding.
Yeah, probably.
So I did want to bring up that mentorship thing was interesting to me. The $15 million of Bitcoin is interesting to me. I'm kind of like working on my list here. The Bilderberger thing is huge, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
huge. Those are the people. Like, if you wanted to talk about what the dark priest class is, I'm pretty sure the Bilderberger is like that, right? Like,
Yeah, they're
and
well
maybe some
known
other
for
influencer.
like kind of being shadow masters, I guess.
Yeah,
Just kind of like
they tell. Yeah, this secretive organization, and they tell you, they're like, yeah, we are all the world leaders getting together, determining the future of the globe. Like, they tell you that. They're like, that's, and people don't believe that. Like, I don't, when people tell you who they are, believe them. And then you see all the people who are in Bilderberg that are supposedly on these opposing teams, like, and then they all get together in this room and plan our future. Like, oh, okay, well, it feels to me like the wrestling match, right, where you've got them like pretend pinned, and you're like, all right, well, now you're gonna, like, now you need to armbar me, and then I'm gonna backflip, and then you're gonna, like, coast to coast me. It feels like that's what it is.
All right.
Did you want me to hop into my article, or did you have more to share?
Yeah,
How are we doing on time?
We're still good on time. We can do like another half an hour.
Okay, cool. Do you want me to hop into one of the articles that I had pulled up?
Yeah. Why don't we switch to yours? Enough Peter Thiel quotes.
Okay. You want me to share the article to you so you can pull it up on the screen share for the audience?
You can just
even though I'm going to have to cut my video.
You can just read it.
Okay, cool. Cool. I'm going to cut my video and pull it up, and then I'll just start reading.
Yeah. I'll put a silly picture there in editing.
Excellent. So I am going to read, pull it up, and then I'll just start reading.
Yeah. I'll put a silly picture there in editing.
Excellent. So I am going to read, this is an article from Jacobin, which I find very interesting because, well, the Jacobin and the French Revolution that's a very interesting story, especially when you look at it in terms of looking at, quote unquote, what we call the dark priest class and what people would call the Illuminati. If you look at it through the lens of conspiracy, the Jacobins and the French Revolution are very interesting. So the title of this article is Peter Thiel wants you to think he's an evil genius. He's just a rich guy. And I would like to note that this is where you and I kind of like, this article is where we started getting our jokes about the reverse psychology of Thiel, right? Like, of what Thieling somebody means, So to us, this is the first example of Peter Thiel Thieling us, like,
he's Thieling
so
us into
the title again.
To his witchcraft.
Right. So this is by a gentleman named Ben Burgess. And I'll just start reading. Venture capitalists. Peter Thiel's massive wealth and resulting political influence are symptoms of a profoundly unequal society. But don't buy into his evil genius self-branding. His ideology isn't a dark enigma. It's just run-of-the-mill rich guy stuff. And I'm just going to pause right off the bat. And I'm going to say that there are a couple of things that I notice here in terms of like Bernaysian speech, right? This kind of like that double speak sort of. it feels to me like not only is he trying to like admit that he's an evil genius, but still kind of like try to play it off like, oh, I'm just a cool run of the mill rich guy. But I also think that he's admitting that quote unquote run of the mill rich guys are more into the evil genius, like the evil side of things. Maybe they're not all geniuses, but into the evil side of things. He's like, oh, don't worry. All these things that I'm saying are just run of the mill rich guy stuff. And all of the rich guys are saying the same thing, like eating babies or whatever. I'm making that example up. But in that sense of like, oh, don't worry, we're just doing rich guy things over here. Like, oh no, Epstein. Like, oh no, that's just rich guy stuff. Like, don't, like kind of feels like that. Anyway, I'm going to continue.
It does.
In his book, The Contrarian, Peter Thiel and Silicon Valley's Pursuit of Power, Max Chafkin, the author of the book, hones in on college-aged Thiel's great love of speed chess. At Stanford, he went to Stanford too. Yep. Okay, anyway. At Stanford, Thiel would go to the student union, the coffee house, and, quote, sit there for hours playing dozens of consecutive 5-minute games, absorbing the lessons of the intense cerebral sport. One day, in Chafkin's account, Thiel gave some friends a ride to a chess tournament. He drove like a maniac down Route 17, a 4-lane highway that crosses the Santa Cruz Mountains, weaving in and out of traffic, flooring the accelerator and barely avoiding collisions. When the California Highway Patrol finally pulled him over, Thiel told a cop that speed limits are an infringement on liberty and quite possibly unconstitutional. The cop decided to let him off with a warning. And see, to me, that feels like also this random mention. It's almost like a guilt that he's saying, like, or an admission there. Like, why did you include that? Like, we went from like, it feels like he's kind of jumping around there, and like for some reason needed to admit that, oh, well, laws are an infringement on my liberty. Anyway, okay, so in other contexts, his commitment to liberty seems to have been a lot more flexible. Some of his classmates at Stanford recalled Thiel, whose family had lived in South Africa in the 1970s, defending apartheid on the basis that it works, i.e. that South Africa had a higher level of economic development than its neighbors, rendering irrelevant any moral hand-wringing about the country's human rights abuses. When people tell you who they are, believe them. The picture of young Thiel that emerges in the early chapters of The Contrarian corresponds to the way that many people perceive Thiel now that he's a 54-year-old billionaire. This was written a couple years ago. He's now 56. Who lavishes resources on extreme right-wing candidates in races around the country. A libertarian that funds right-wing candidates all around the country. Okay, interesting. The chess, the ultra-reactionary political opinions, the relatively obscure intellectual influences. He was a devotee of Rene Girard. And the bold refusal, which I'm not sure what that name means. I'm going to have to go and research more about what that means. Anyway, and the bold refusal to recognize the authority of traffic laws combined to make these chapters feel like an installment of a comic book where we read about the supervillain's backstory. The concept for my doomsday device, Mr. Kent, first blossomed in my mind when I was at the coffee house at Stanford. This is a quote. My game of speed chess was interrupted by some starry-eyed student activist trying to get me to sign a petition for the university to divest from South Africa. End quote. Thiel's own vision of the world and his place in it seems modeled less after a comic book than a classic science fiction novel. One of his most iconic statements is that we were promised flying cars and we got 140 characters. He noisily promoted seasteading, basically building libertarian colonies on the ocean as a way of avoiding taxation and regulation. Not for us, I bet. He's not talking about seasteading for you and me, Garrett. I doubt. He's talking about avoiding taxation and regulation for his monopoly buddies over there.
Yeah,
it would be even greater if he made a. It would be even better if he made a seasteading a community that looked like the Monopoly board. So all his buddies had like houses around this like floating seasteading like thing, and like in the middle they had like a safe area for them to swim or whatever.
That would be hilarious.
So he's got like a Monopoly.
He's like really devoted to Monopoly.
Anyway,
he's obsessed with it. I don't know.
Yeah, he's just so monopolistic.
He makes his own money there that looks like Monopoly money, just for the meme. Like just.
Oh my god! Yeah, just to make it even better, dude. Like that's peak. I'm doing the Italian gesture right now. That's just peak.
Yeah, just.
Anyway, he's expressed. Oh, this is the part where it also starts to get twisted, right? Like, okay. He's expressed interest in a life extension technique involving blood transfusion from younger donors. The parabiosis stuff, he told one reporter, is really interesting. While clarifying that he hadn't done so, he seemed to go out of his way to say that he'd considered incorporating it into his own health regimen. And to cover it really quickly, parabiosis is the theory that basically like a younger blood will make an older person younger. That it will. That's to sum it up. And we all know a group of people who are very obsessed with the idea of bodily fluids and eternal life. Hillary Clinton. Sorry. That's just me choking on the Hillary news.
Yeah.
Anyway. The Epstein Hillary news.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get shot.
Not incoming.
Anyway. Yeah, I know how to drive. I don't go near cliff edges. I'm not suicidal. I don't know how to shoot myself in the back of the head from 10 feet back with 2 bullet holes. Just letting the world know.
He didn't kill himself.
Continuing with the article. It's worth taking a beat to really think about that last item. Peter Thiel wants you to think that he might be injecting himself with the blood of the young. And this is where we really started to catch on to the interesting aspect of like the double or triple speak that Thiel is going on. Peter Thiel is telling people that, oh, well, there's this thing where we believe that drinking the blood, okay, they don't say drinking, I put that in there, but we don't, there's this thing where people believe that drinking the blood of younger people makes you younger, but I haven't done it. I'm only considering it as a medical option, which means that it is a medical option out there for starters. It means that if he's considering it, he can go somewhere and purchase this parabiosis already, is the implications there. And then he's having these people write an article that's telling you Peter Thiel wants you to think that he might be injecting himself with the blood of the young. But don't worry, that's not evil genius. That's just normal rich guy stuff, is the end of that sentence there that's unsaid, So I'm going to continue with the article. Unless you have something to say, Garrett?
No, you nailed it.
Nope, we're still good?
We're still good. You nailed it.
Okay, cool. I'm going to keep going. It's tempting to speak of Thiel as an evil genius, but we should be wary of taking the persona he's crafted at face value. Be wary of, these are my words right here, be wary of Thiel as an evil genius. We shouldn't take what he's telling us at face value, is what this article is telling us. Okay, I'm going to start the whole sentence over because this paragraph is important to read in one thought. It's tempting to speak of Thiel as an evil genius, but we should be wary of taking the persona he's crafted at face value. The man knows what he's doing. One of the most revealing sentences in The Contrarian is a quote from a conversation Peter Thiel had with an anonymous friend about Thiel's surveillance business, Palantir. Forbes had published a cover story about Palantir under the headline, "Meet Big Brother." Civil libertarians were alarmed. Thiel shrugged it off, telling his friend, "I'd rather be seen as evil than incompetent." A supervillain or a bullshit artist? The Contrarian is at its best when Chafkin is poking holes in Thiel's self-branding. For example, Thiel and his associates encouraged the idea that Palantir's technology was crucial to the operation to kill Osama bin Laden. The party line at the company was, with a wink and a nod, that they weren't at liberty to disclose any details, but they could perhaps encourage people to Google the phrase, Palantir bin Laden, which means that they already, between you and I, which means that they already have search engine optimization set up. If they're telling you to Google the phrase exactly Palantir bin Laden, they have curated every single answer on Google to give you exactly what they want to say. One source, actually pretty familiar with the nitty-gritty details, told Chafkin that Palantir didn't really do much to analyze raw information. It was more of a visualization aid. This is a company that the CIA has invested money in as a startup and is worth $20 billion now. And someone is telling people that the US government bought this thing as not anything to analyze raw information, but more of a visualization aid. Like, you've never heard of fucking PowerPoint? You're not spending $20 billion on a visualization aid. I'm doing quotes over here. But anyway, the book is at its weakest when Chafkin takes the mysterious evil genius branding seriously. He's saying that it's weakest when it takes the Peter Thiel's truths seriously. The book is at its weakest when Chafkin takes the mysterious evil genius branding seriously, presenting the contradictions in Thiel's alleged ideology as interesting enigmas rather than signs he's spewing superficially edgy-sounding nonsense to trigger the libs and cultivate his own persona. Thiel wants us to think he's operating on a master plan rooted in deep commitment to some secretive but ideologically consistent vision, but that portrayal doesn't line up with reality. I think I'm going to pause right there. Do you have any thoughts about that last sentence? I'll read it one more time, and then maybe you could think about some things to say about this, because I would like to hear some of your thoughts as well. But I'm going to reread this sentence. Thiel wants us to think he's operating on a master plan rooted in a deep commitment to some secretive but ideologically consistent vision, but that portrayal doesn't line up with reality.
I think it's.
Do you think that... Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate, actually. It seems like, because he is kind of like portraying like the ideological consistent vision of him being like a conservative libertarian. You know, he's all for like individual liberty and all this, but then underneath it all, he's, you know, being supported by the CIA, and he's like has this data mining company that helped kill bin Laden or whatever. Obviously, it's not just a visual aid; they're obviously mining in data that help them find bin Laden or whatever, or however. I don't even know how they do it, but anyway, yeah, I kind of feel like it's like exactly what he's doing. He's telling you like, yeah, I'm saying this, but I'm actually doing something else, something more devious, perhaps.
I would say that that he does have an ideological consistency throughout his actions, which I think is also what you're saying. I mean, that is also what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that like he has this. I mean, to me, if I was to describe Peter Thiel's ideological consistency through time, it's that he is pretty secretive. It seems that he has a lot of things that make me question. There's a lot of like a lot of like just things that feel off, only being worth $15.4 billion. You know, so like so he's determined to being secretive. He's kind of determined to trolling a little bit. It seems like he's enjoying putting this persona right in front of your face, and also rubbing it in your face that you don't even believe him that he is saying this. And actually, I just remembered something that was pretty important for me growing up. One time in high school, a gentleman spilled water on his gym shorts on the front of his pants. So clearly it looked like he peed his pants. Yeah. And classic. He came out and everybody was teasing him about peeing his pants. And he looked at the class. This was one of the most wise things. I don't even remember this kid's name. And I think he was kind of a doofus. But this was one of the most wise things that this gentleman ever said, and one of the most wise things I ever learned. And I'm glad I remembered it for this moment. But he said, no, if I had peed myself, I would have come out here and told everyone that I peed myself. Like, I'd be like, he's like, I would walk out of that door and I would parade the fact that I had peed myself in the bathroom, that I'd dribbled or whatever, and I had an accident. Because if I came out doing that, none of you would believe me. You would all just laugh and be like, oh, ha, yeah, right. You just spilled water, ha, ha, ha. Whereas if he had come out and had that dribble of water and been like, "No, I didn't pee myself. No, I didn't pee myself," everything would be like, "Yeah, you did." Like, and I think that's a great example of Peter Thiel.
Yeah,
Peter
Thiel's
Thiel
basically in
peed
middle
himself.
school. He's basically in middle
He
school.
peed himself and told everybody about it, and everybody's like, "Nah, dude, like you don't know. We know better. You didn't pee yourself." Like,
classic.
and I do think that I do think he's ideologically consistent in being secretive. He's ideologically consistent in mentoring these huge people. We haven't gotten into the part where it talks about how JD Vance is a mentee of his, or he's a mentor of JD Vance. We haven't quite gotten into that yet. This man is also supposedly a very devout Catholic Christian for sure, Catholic questionably, which ties in another interesting fact of him being gay. Right, so he's a conservative, Republican, libertarian, monopolistic Bilderberger who owns a company invested by the CIA, Catholic, gay. That all of those things that I just said were true or spouted as true about Peter Thiel. Those are all in his bio. You know what I mean? Like, that's his description, and that is quite the description. Saying those words coming out of my mouth, it doesn't feel right to throw them together in a sentence. It's like, "Oh, I'm an Islamic Catholic." Like, what? Like, no, you're not an Islamic Catholic. No, you're not. Like, "Oh, I'm a voodoo priest in a Catholic church." Like, no, no. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go on with the article for a little bit more. I don't think we'll cover the whole thing because it does kind of go on.
It goes on.
And I do think we've kind of touched upon some of the points. I'm going to just hop back over and read maybe the next couple paragraphs to see if there's anything else to be noticed, because I do think there is the JD Vance reference coming up, and I'm not necessarily saying anything about anything, right? I'm just looking at the data. Anyway,
we're just presenting information. We're not telling you what to think.
I will definitely make my own conspiracy theories and fun imagination things. But so anyway, to continue on from this paragraph into the next one, I'm going to reread that sentence again. Thiel wants us to think he's operating on a master plan rooted in a deep commitment to some secretive but ideologically consistent vision. But that portrayal doesn't line up with reality. Thiel has often claimed to be a libertarian, but he spent the Bush years securing government contracts for Palantir and complaining even at the height of the war on terror that the government was too squeamish about privacy. Okay. Oh, he's recently emerged as the primary billionaire sugar daddy for a whole group of alleged populists like Josh Hawley, Blake Masters, and JD Vance, who talk a big, and then it puts in parentheses, albeit empty, and parentheses, game about helping working class people. But in 2012, just one decade prior, he went in on Ron Paul's campaign with its emphasis on eviscerating social programs and leaving everything up to the free market. In other words, Thiel is all over the place. He's also questionably effective. And like right there, they contradict themselves in one sentence. They're like, see, he can't be up to anything because look, he's all over the place, but he's also questionably effective. Like, no, you can't be. No. Okay. Anyway, in other words, Thiel is all over the place. He's also questionably effective. Thiel was a member of Trump's transition team, but it seems his role entirely consisted of suggesting the names of obscure right-wing eccentrics for various jobs and being shot down by Trump's people. Thiel loves obscure right-wing eccentrics. See his patronage of self-described monarchist weirdo Curtis Yarvin. These are the article's words.
That's so funny.
Thiel's political history lacks overall ideological coherence, but there are some through lines. He thinks he personally should make some more money. And see, this is another thing where they're like, oh, look, there's no ideological coherence, but here's some ideological coherence for you. He thinks he should personally make more money, pay less in taxes, and get more government contracts. On a grander scale, he wants government to generally be more servile to the interests of the wealthy. Whatever else they disagree about, pretty much every commentator or politician Thiel has sponsored is on board with that. To be clear, that agenda is terrible for our society. Every step in the direction of fulfilling these policy preferences makes economic inequality worse, ecological destruction more severe, and the world around us less livable. But these aren't exactly unusual preferences for a man of Thiel's wealth. They're not evil genius ideas. They're just run of the mill rich guy ideas. I'm going to stop it there because it kind of goes on to criticizing right-wing ideology rather than focusing on Peter Thiel. But I think that's a really good encapsulation of the things that we're getting at in his thing. And I would like to hear some of your thoughts.
Okay, yeah. I pulled up the article myself because I was like, I want to read along.
Perfect. Yeah, I was hoping.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so JD Vance, obviously the vice president now. Yeah, and you're kind of right. Like, it's kind of, this is why we kind of came up with the reverse psychology thing for Thiel, because he's kind of like a contradictory kind of figure. You know, on the one hand, he's supporting Ron Paul's campaign, but on the other hand, he's you know, working with the CIA and helping the government. And then it's even more weird because he's like, I like that he likes the right-wing ideas of Curtis Yarvin. If you ever read Curtis Yarvin, it's like he has some interesting thoughts, but it's all like kind of just out there. He's a monarchist, so he believes in like the royal we. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, Yarvin's
another monopolist kind of sounds like, because a monarchy is like a governing form of monarchy,
yeah.
right? Or I'm sorry, a monarchy is a monopoly, but one is governance and one is economics. We could loosely make that comparison, right? Without being.
Yeah, because it's just a divine ruling, basically. And then, yeah, he's kind of like, again, it's kind of telling you what he's doing out loud, like, because he's saying, like, oh, I'm libertarian, I'm Republican, but really, he's like, actually, I want the government to be my bitch, and I just want to make a lot of money. That's really what he's trying to do. I don't know if he's evil necessarily, but what he's supporting by helping the government is evil, I would say, like, in a way. It's like evil by association. It's like, you can, like, even if you don't rob banks, if you help people rob banks, you're still committing a crime. You're still helping rob the bank, even if you didn't actually physically go to the bank and rob it. But if you were, like, you know, I don't know, like the driver or like the hacker that hacked into the security system, you know, you're still guilty by association, even if you didn't do it. And that's kind of what Thiel's doing.
Or even not, maybe you weren't involved, quote unquote, directly in the heist, but you're at the private bar with your buddies, enjoying the spoils of that heist afterward, discussing all of, you knew about the heist, you're enjoying the spoils of the heist afterward. You just maybe necessarily weren't, like, implicatable had the heist been, caught. Like, you wouldn't be in the vehicle, like, but you're still, so maybe you're not criminally implicatable, but you're still definitely socially implicatable.
Yeah, he's like in the sphere of influence, I guess. Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Guilty by association is a thing. I mean, like, like, you can't, it's like the same thing with, like, Bill Gates and Epstein, like, oh, I only went to his island 36 times, and his wife is like, oh, why did you go to his island? And he's like, oh, well, I needed marital advice. Like,
no.
What?
No.
What? You're going to Epstein for marital advice? What, fool?
Yeah,
like, oh, is he a great?
Yeah, what?
He's a great husband. You should really learn. Yeah, you should really learn from him. He'll teach you all the things.
Yeah, what are you doing anyway if you're going to him for advice?
Yeah, he's so monogamistic and just, like, Like he's such a pillar of relationship that you should definitely seek him for your guru. Like in terms of people you should go to for relationship advice, the third worst one is Pearl, the second worst one is Andrew Tate, and the first worst one is Epstein.
I mean, also the fact that he's dead now, it kind of doesn't. Like,
yeah,
when he was alive, maybe.
If Epstein is talking back to you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you might want to go see about those demons.
Keep going with your thoughts, please.
Okay. Yeah. Where was I? And then of course the article does acknowledge that his ideas of like government being more subservient to him, kind of a bad way for society to operate, but that's how it does operate now. Like we're seeing it with the tying into current events, the U.S. aid scandal thing, where they're finding all this aid is going to random weird things that probably don't need government funding, taxpayer money. So, I mean, I could see if he's like pushing the government money to like things that are worthwhile, that's fine, I guess. But at the same time, he's gonna push it to things that he cares about, his businesses. And I think Elon's doing kind of the same thing with Doge. Like he's cutting funds and trying to cut stuff down, which is good. But at the same time, he's like, oh yeah, but this money could be used for my space program, or my electric cars or whatever. So
we had that discussion, when we hosted that Elon Spaces, we had that discussion with that gentleman, and he was like, we were talking about this, and he, not throwing shade at him at all, but he was definitely like, what did he say? He said that the ability to choose who gets funding and the ability to cut someone's funding off is very different. And I almost feel like the ability to stop funding is more powerful than the ability to fund, right? Like, because someone could grant you funding, but if you have the ability to be like, nope, I disagree and I overrule, to me that's more powerful than funding. And you can also leverage the funding deciders by being like, look, if you pass that through, I'm just going to cut the funding. So you might as well like not waste everybody's time and just, there's like an extra little bit of like a crowbar leverage point, I feel like, by that. And we might have to, this might have to be the Peter Thiel episode, and then we might have to do an Elon Musk episode, as well, because we definitely focused a lot of time on Thiel, and for us to open up an Elon Musk at this point in time would be, it's a little late maybe to do that. We should maybe just focus with Thiel.
Yeah. I was going to say, actually the you were saying about the cutting funds thing, like he, what was I had a thought about that. I forgot now. Anyway.
Well, just keep going with your ideas on the article, and then if you're done with that, then we can do that other article that I haven't read yet, so we get like the live reaction to it as we go.
Or we could,
if you want,
we could wrap it up too.
Oh, perfect. Okay, we could do that. Do you have any more thoughts?
It's been an hour already, so crazy enough.
Oh, well then great. I perfect. Did you have any closing thoughts on the Thiel thing?
Oh yeah,
on the Thiel article,
or Peter Thiel, right? So I think he's like a shadow puppet master. Like he's part of the Bilderberg group, which kind of like is obviously known for that. And then I don't know, he's just interesting. I just wonder what his influence is on Elon and some of the other like Zuckerberg, some of the other people, big influential people that are like in the spotlight. Because he's kind of like in the background. People know of him, but not really. I just wonder, like, how much is he in Elon's ear or in Zuckerberg's ear, being like, "Hey, do this," or "Hey, do that." Like I just don't know if is he Thieling us right now, or is he just like, or is
just a run of the mill rich guy?
Yeah. Like I don't believe him when he says that. I'm like, yeah, run of the mill rich guy maybe, but you're way too involved to be like just run of the mill. It's
almost just like he's like, I'm gonna eat your soul, psych. Like, oh yeah, just kidding. Like, No, dude, no. I do think that something that we should bring up, and I thought it was in the Jacobin article, but it might be somewhere else that we researched. But it did talk about how Peter Thiel was the person who got JD Vance to be on the Trump train, because originally JD Vance was very critical of Trump and his policies and his actions and his he was not really, I don't necessarily want to say, I don't know the whole backstory, but I don't necessarily want to say that like JD Vance hated Trump. I don't feel like that was the case, but I definitely feel like critical maybe is a good word, and I definitely would not say that he was an ally of Trump, before. And then we, you the listener can research this yourself, but um, you know, it's provable that Peter Thiel took JD Vance to Mar-a-Lago, and he and Trump and Vance, which means that Thiel has a good enough relationship with Trump in order to ask for a private audience with the former president at that time at his private residence. Like, you have to have some power to be able to be like, hey, I want to have a private meeting with you and JD Vance, this other person, and at the end of that meeting, I love Hamilton, the musical. I hate Hamilton, the man. He's a piece of shit. Thank you, Aaron Burr. But Hamilton, the music, did a great job. They have that song in there where they're like, nobody was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened. That's what it feels like to me with Thiel and Trump Vance. I'm not trying to throw Trump or Vance or Thiel under the bus, but like, these are things that we must acknowledge while we're analyzing the world. Is like, Thiel is the one who took JD Vance to Mar-a-Lago and had a private meeting with Trump, and is the reason. And at the end of that meeting, Vance and Trump were both on board with JD Vance being Trump's VP pick. So like, that is a not zero amount of power,
yeah, but it's also the money he has too. Like, that's why he's a big donor to the Republican Party. So Trump's not gonna ignore his call if he's like, oh hey, I need a meeting for you to talk to this guy to become VP, to like pick him as VP or whatever. And he's like, all right, cool, 15, millions of dollars in funding, and he's like, all right, I gotta listen, I guess. So money talks and bullshit walks. That's what I always say, and it's true.
Yeah, and Thiel is like, I whooped your ass last fucking week in golf, Trump. You owe me. Like, you can either give me Greenland or you can meet with JD Vance.
He's like, fine, I'll just talk shit about Greenland. I'll give you Vance, whatever. Art of the deal or whatever.
I would like to mention one other thing about Palantir, and then we can kind of like cut it off. But we did talk about how Palantir.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. We did talk about how Palantir was a data analytics company, but there is something else that you should be aware of with Palantir, you, the listener. It is involving itself in something called predictive policing, and it is launching its predictive policing program, I think, in 2 cities, and one of them is New Orleans. I can definitely say that Palantir is launching its predictive policing AI data analytics, mass data analytics company or spec in New Orleans. So this is a CIA funded big data analytics company owned by a monopolistic libertarian that is doing predictive policing in New Orleans. And I would just like to say that AI predictive policing by itself, no matter who the coordinator is a terrible thing.
It's dystopian.
And the fact that we have, I mean, that's Minority Report, right? Sure, they used 3 precogs in it to make it a little bit more mystical, but like, an AI company, a privately owned, government-funded AI company, is refining its predictive policing tactics, and we do not necessarily know even that they are refining ethical predictive policing tactics. This opens up a whole can of worms of ethics, morality, data, surveillance, AI, funding, politics. Like, just this one statement has so many things in it. But you can Google it yourself and come to more deductions. And we always love hearing comments and questions, and we'll definitely incorporate them. We're going to do a Musk episode. I think it's pretty clear. We're going to do that, and we can touch upon some of the Peter Thiel things in the Musk episode, especially if you have comments, questions, statements, facts, articles, opinions. Please let us know. I am Devin at Into the Mist 13 on Twitter. I already did my plug for people earlier. Garrett, if you would like to plug some people away, actually, let me just, at JKC, at J_Casey1010. She has a lot of people she would probably like to plug. I'm just going to re-plug who she did last week. It was an Etsy page called Rosaries by Alex. And then if you would like to plug away as well.
Yeah. So I changed my Twitter handle because I was like, I don't like my other one. So I'm GPS Life 12 now. GPS on all capitals. And then I guess I'll plug my other YouTube channel, Technically Analytics, because I dropped a video today. Haven't done that in a while. I did a
Nice.
wrap up of the MLB off season so far. Just like a quick thing because I was
Perfect.
like, yeah, whatever. And then
Cool.
Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave comments, likes. Hopefully we'll be dropping more. And
Yeah. Oh, we've got some really cool guests coming up too. Let me just plug ourselves. Let me plug ourselves.
Yeah, the guests.
Let me plug ourselves real quick, right? Okay, so we're Not Zero Podcast. On Twitter, we are at Not Zero Podcast. And we do have some really cool people coming up. We've got a very interesting Catholic libertarian woman who's going to talk about her foundations of Catholicism and libertarian ideology, and she's a convert and just has some really cool insights into God and liberty. Our first guest for sure is definitely going to be the 22nd of this month. His is at PHViking76. And he is a cryptozoologist and a demonologist and has some very interesting things to say, some very interesting stories, some very interesting perspectives. He is also a Norse pagan follower. We don't shame anyone or disregard anyone due to ideology, theology, unless, you're crazy and not good. But yeah, so he's a very interesting human being and we'll have a lot of things to say. And we have several other people in the lineup. I don't necessarily want to say names yet until we're secured and locked in. But we got some really cool things in the lineup. So I think that we're just going to call it pretty much good. Garrett, if you're good, and I'll talk to you after the episode.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, everybody.
Peace.
Peace out.